So, good morning everyone. Our topic is all about environmental crisis and sustainable development. The reporters are Manzo, Hermosilia, Lanyoso, and Dinopol. So, the learning outcomes for this chapter, at the end of this lesson, you should be able to first discuss the origins and manifestations of global environment crisis. Second, relate everyday encounters with pollution, global warming, desertification, ozone depletion, and many others with a larger picture of environmental degradation. And lastly, examine the policies and programs of governments around the world that addresses the environmental crisis. So as you can see in the slide, there are four pictures being shown. So the first one is all about waste disposal catastrophe. Second one is water pollution. The third one is the so-called smog. The fourth one is all about garbage pollution. So as we step out from our respective homes, we see this kind of environmental problems. We see rotten vegetables, rat, plastics, smoke from diesel vehicles, and tons of human and non-human wastes that results in poisonous skies and declining quality life. The world's leading environmental problems, as according to the Conserve Energy Future website, these are the following environmental challenges that the world faces today. First one is the depredation caused by industrial and transportation toxins and plastics in the ground. The defiling of the sea, rivers, and waterbeds by oil spills and acid rain. The dumping of urban waste. The second one is the changes in global weather patterns, such as flash floods, extreme snowstorms, and the spread of deserts. So, the surge in ocean and land temperatures leading to a rise in the sea levels, plus the flooding of many lowland areas across the world. Third is the overpopulation. Fourth one is the exhaustion of world's natural non-renewable resources, from oil reserves to minerals to potable water. The fifth one is the waste disposal catastrophe. It is due to the excessive amount of waste, from plastic to food packages to electronic waste, unloaded by communities in landfills as well as on the ocean and on the dumping of nuclear waste. The sixth one is the destruction of 1 million years old of ecosystem, like destruction of the coral reefs and massive deforestation that have led to the extinction of particular species and the decline in the number of others, and also the loss of biodiversity. The seventh one is the deforestation, and with this activity, the reduction of oxygen and the increase in carbon dioxide in the atmosphere is present, resulting in the rise in ocean acidity by as much as 150% in the last 250 years. So the eighth one is the depletion of the ozone layer. So the function of this ozone layer protects the planet from the sun's deadly ultraviolet rays due to chlorofluorocarbons, or the so-called CFCs, in the atmosphere. The third one is the deadly acid rain. So as a result of fossil fuels combustion, toxic chemicals from erupting volcanoes, and the massive rotting vegetables piling up garbage dumps are left on the streets. The 10th one is the water pollution. It is the arising from industrial and community waste residues seeping into underground water tables, rivers, and seas. The next one is the urban sprawls that continues to expand as a city turns into a megalopolis, destroying farmlands, increasing traffic gridlock, and making smog cloud a permanent urban fixture. Next one is the pandemics and other threats to public health arising from wastes mixing with drinking water, polluted environment that become breeding grounds for mosquitoes and disease-carrying rodents and pollution. And last one is the radical alteration of food systems. It is the world's leading environmental problems because of genetic modifications in food production. So many of these problems are caused by natural changes. An example of this is the volcanic eruptions. They lower the world's temperature as they release toxins in the atmosphere. Samples of volcanic eruptions are the Kilauea volcano and the Mount Pinatubo. In case of Kilauea volcano, it continuously erupting since 1893, and the latest eruption was on September 29, 2022. The U.S. Geological Survey measured that the gas emissions from the active Kilauea volcano in Hawaii has been releasing more than twice the amount of noxious sulfur oxide gas as the single dirtiest power plant on the United States mainland. So, in the case of Mount Pinatubo, it erupted on June 15, 2001, and it releases 15 million of tons of sulfur dioxide. As it releases the said dioxide, it created a hazy layer of particles that is composed of sulfuric acid droplets. So, with that, it lowers the average global temperature by 0.6 degrees Celsius for the next 15 months. However, the volcanologists at the University of Hawaii added that Pinatubo had released 15 to 20 megaton of sulfur dioxide into the stratosphere.
My name is Jude Andinopol, so the topic I will tackle or discuss for today is man-made pollution. What is man-made pollution? Man-made pollution, it is generally a byproduct of human actions such as a consumption, waste disposal, industrial production, transportation, and energy generation. So, is all pollution man-made? So pollutants can be natural, such as volcanic ash. They can also be created by human activity, such as trash or runoff produced by factories. Pollutants damage the quality of air, water, and land. Many things that are useful to people is producing pollution. Humans exacerbate other natural environmental problems. In Saudi Arabia, sandstorms combined with combustion exhaust from traffic. So, traffic is accumulated vehicles that use infrastructure as a means of traveling from place to place. Sandstorms, a strong wind carrying clouds of sand with it, especially in a desert. So, combining with the exhaust from traffic. So, car exhaust gases contain a large number of different pollutants and gases and particulate from gaseous pollutants included nitrogen dioxide. Industrial waste. It is manufacturing waste from a wide range of different processes, such as sludges, product residues, kiln dust, slugs, and slushes. So, this waste can lead the World Health Organization declare Riyadh as one of the most populated cities in the world. There's human contribution that can become immediate cause of worry. Coal fumes coming out of industries and settlings down in surrounding areas in China soil, 20% was contaminated. with the rice lands in the Yunnan and Zhuzhou found to have heavy metal from the mines, threatening the food supply. Air pollution. By Greenpeace India reported that in 2015, air pollution in the country was at its so worst. 51% of the pollution is caused by industrial pollution, 27% by vehicles, 17% by crop burning, and 5% by other sources. Air pollution contributes to the premature deaths of 2 million Indians every year. By the Indian government's inadequate monitoring system, there are only 17 national air quality networks covering 89 cities across the continent. Furthermore, in Nigeria, 94% population of Nigerian was affected or exposed by air pollution that the WHO or World Health Organization warned as reaching the dangerous levels. While in Gaborone, the capital of Botswana, is the 7th most populated city in the world. The emission of the aerosol and other gases from car exhaust, burning of wood or garbage, indoor cooking, and diesel fueled electric generators and petrochemical plants are projected to quadruple by 2030. Waste coming out of coal, copper, and gold mines flowing out into the rivers and ocean is destroying sea life or permitting the body of those which survive with poison. So the biggest copper mine in Malankad in India discharges high levels of toxic heavy metals into water stream. While in China, the tailings from the operation of the Shanxi Miankao ecological mining, producing 12,000 tons of gold per year. So tailings are a byproduct of mining. So this have caused pollution and safety problems. The condition in China have become very critical as the toxic byproducts of production processes are being produced. So much more rapidly than the earth can absorb. Meanwhile, over a century, coal mines in West Virginia have pumped chemical-laden wastewater directly into the ground, where it can leach into the water table and turn what had been drinkable and water into a poisonous cocktail of chemicals. The system goes back generation and would soon render much of the state's water are undrinkable. Okay, next. In the West Africa, the atmospheric circulation system was affected due to pollution. So the atmospheric circulation system that controls everything from wind and temperature to rainfall across the huge swatches of the region, the Asian monsoon had become the transport of polluted air into the stratosphere, and the scientists are now linking Pacific storms at the end of pollution in Asia. So aerosol is tagged the culprit in changing rainfall patterns in Asia and Atlantic Ocean. So there were 50,000 rivers in China 20 years ago. So, by 2013, the result of the climate change, 28,000 of these rivers had disappeared due to uncontrolled urban growth and rapid industrialization. And people's health has been severely compromised. So the journal Scientific American blamed the pollution for contributing to more than 500,000 premature deaths each year at the cost of hundreds of billions of dollars. So that is why the International Agency for Research of Cancer blamed air pollution for 223,000 lung cancer deaths in 2010. In Indonesia and Malaysia, the link between forest fires and mortality have been well established. And so the aforementioned coal mining in the West Virginia also made people sick. Some with rare cancer, little kids with kidney stones and premature deaths, and children born with congenital disabilities, and adults having shorter life expectancy. So, ana ang cause or effect sa man-made pollution nga pangbuhat sa tao. Kasi ang ganahan sa mga tao is makabuhat og pollution, di ba? Mora gina ang ilahang warag something kalipay cause makakuan siya og kwarta. So, but the effect is daghang mga daot, like sa mga bagurang na panganak nga mga babies, makakuan dayon sila congenital disabilities and luoy kaayo. Then next, in the United States, Yale University research team studying areas with high levels of population, the greater the concentration of Hispanics, Asians, African American, or poor residents in the area are more likely dangerous compounds. In India, that is, an adult health revealed in Delhi is 46% and Calcutta have 56%. China, the toxicity of the soil has raised concern over food security and the health of the most vulnerable, especially the peasant communities and those living factory cities. So in 2006, 160 of the acres land in Sinma, China was badly poisoned. So 2 people died and 150 were known to be poisoned, and the entire village was abandoned. In Hong Kong, faces the same problem. 37% of over 4 million people of the population in Metro Manila live in slum communities. So, the effects of the urban environmental problems and threats of climate change are also most pronounced. So, due to their hazardous location, poor air pollution and solid waste management, and weak disaster risk management, and limiting coping strategies of households. And one of the major ironies of urban pollution is that the necessities that the poor has access to are also the resources of the problem. And however, so because it runs mainly in diesel fuel, it is now considered one of the largest contributors of the environmental pollution problems worldwide. So this problem is expected to worsen in the middle of classes and elites, but more cars and roads system are improved to give people more chance to travel. So according to the Center of Science and Environment in Delhi, India, two-wheelers form a strategic 75% and 8 to 80% of the traffic in most Asian cities. And motorbikes burn oil and gasolines and emit more smoke, carbon monoxide, hydrocarbons, and particulate matter than the gas-only four-stroke engines found in newer motorbikes. So finally, adding to this predicament in the proliferation and diesel-run cars. So these vehicles are usually command a lower price because of their durability and low operating cost, and hence affordable to the middle class. Yes, and also it really is 4 times of toxic pollution as the buses.
So, catching up. So, there are 4 major environmental problems. The first one is the pollution. The second one is the resource depletion. The third one is the environmental degradation. And the fourth one is climate change. These massive environmental problems are difficult to resolve because government believe that they must be industrialized, urbanized, and inhabited to become a fully developed country. So, in a fully developed country, industrial sector and agricultural sector are present. So, in industrial sector, it provides jobs for public transportation and cheap food. So, as food depends on a country's free trade with other producers, it also relies on a modernized agricultural sector in which toxic technologies such as fertilizers or pesticides and modified crops such as high-yielding varieties of rice are ensured to have a maximized productivity. So, United States is the model of this ideal modern society. However, they did not reach this high point without serious environmental consequences. So, to this very day, it is the worst polluter in the history of the world, since it is responsible for 27% of the world's carbon dioxide emissions, on which 60% comes from cars and other vehicles plying American highways and roads. The rest from smoke and soot from coal, factories, forest fires, as well as methane released by farms and breakdown of organic matter. So these ecological consequences, however, far from the mind of countries like China, India, and Indonesia, because they are in the midst of a frenzied effort to achieve and sustain economic growth to catch up with the West. So, in the desire to develop and improve the standard of living of their citizens, these countries will use or opt for the goals of economic growth and cheap energy, which in turn would encourage energy overconsumption, waste, and inefficiency, and also fuel environmental pollution. So, since the industrial sector has only a small share of their national wealth, they will use their natural resources to generate a national kitty that could be invested in industrialization. And these are coal, oil, forests, agricultural products, and minerals. So, these extractive economies, however, are terminal economies. Why? Because their resources, which will be eventually depleted, are also sources of pollution. For example, in Nigeria, the Nigeria's Delta Oil companies have caused substantial land, water, and air pollution. So, if it wants to maintain its current economic growth path and sustain its drive for poverty reduction, oil exploration and production will continue to be a dominant economic activity. So, if the United States let its environment suffer to achieve modernity and improve the lives of its people, developing countries see no reason. So, therefore, why they could not sacrifice the environment in the name of progress. This issue begs the question, how is environmental sustainability ensured while simultaneously addressing the development needs of poor countries?
Climate change. So, what is climate change? Climate change refers to long-term shifts in the temperature and weather patterns. These shifts may be natural, such as through variations in the solar cycle. The change in the environmental conditions of the Earth. This happens to many internal and external factors. The climate change has become a global concern over the last few decades. Besides, these climate changes affect life on the Earth in various ways. The main cause of climate change is burning fossil fuels such as oil, gas, and coal. When burned, fossil fuels release carbon dioxide into the air, causing the planet to heat up. So, what is the relationship between global warming and global climate change? Global warming is caused by the increase in the production of carbon dioxide and other greenhouse gases. It results in a rise in the global temperature that leads to climate change, melting of ice caps, and rising sea levels. Global warming is the result of billions of tons of carbon dioxide coming from coal burning, power plants, and transportation, various air pollutants, and other gases accumulation in the atmosphere, while greenhouse effect is responsible for recurring heat waves and long droughts in certain as well as for heavier rainfall and devastating hurricanes and typhoons. There were like category 4 or 5 typhoons, but scientists claim that there will be more typhoons in the coming years. Issues since 2002, glaciers have been melting, losing 134 billion metric of ice in Antarctica. Coastal flooding affecting United States, Eastern Board, and Gulf of Mexico. Coral reefs have been dying. It is why excessive flooding in every year have been a problem due to breeding grounds for diseases, carriers like the Aedes aegypti mosquito that also causes dengue and certain diseases. Since 21st century, flash floods had getting worse. Global warming mostly hits in India and Southeast Asia. Approximately 1 million hectares of grasslands in the Philippines are highly vulnerable to climate change in the future. Most grasslands in the uplands are prone to fires, particularly during extended periods of dryness and lack of rainfall during summer. Multiple indices rank the Philippines as one of the countries most affected by extreme climate events. The country has experienced highly destructive typhoons almost annually for the past 10 years. This is due to its high exposure to natural hazards like cyclones, landslides, floods, and droughts. Dependence on climate-sensitive natural resources and vast coastlines where all of its major cities and the majority of the population reside.
Morning, sir. My name is Neil Brian Hermosilia. So I'm Group 5. I'm discussing about the combating global warming. So what is global or combating global warming? So combating global warming, as we know, is an increase the temperature of Earth atmosphere. Simply means it's getting hotter. The scientific community believes that climate like global warming have occurred throughout throughout Earth's history and will continue to occur in the future. Scientists have spent decades figuring out what is causing global warming. Balo naman to say global warming or climate change. Climate change, siya the same ra na sila. So, for example, greenhouse effect. Maninag greenhouse effect. Oh. And the second one, or I have example of this. What kasi mga cause sa global warming? So, emission of the greenhouse gases like carbon dioxide, methane, nitrous oxide, or etc. into the atmosphere. The major source of the carbon dioxide is 80%, 20% by methane and nitrous oxide. Carbon dioxide, the major source of carbon dioxide is a power plant. Burning of fossil fuel for the purpose of electricity generation. About 20% of the carbon dioxide emitted in the atmosphere comes from the burning of gasoline in the engine of the vehicles. Manay siya gipanggamit sa mga sakyanan, mga pagkakuha ng gasolina, siya mga example. So methane is the more than 20 times of electral of CO2 at entrapping heat in the atmosphere. Methane is the obtained of resources such as rice, paddies, bovine, flatulence, bacteria, and bulks of fossil fuels manufacture. Muna siya mga factory and hilig or mga factory like mga plastic or mga whatsoever, basta access mga factory. Next is nitrous oxide. The main source of nitrous oxide include nylon and nitric acid production, cars with catalytic converters, the use of fertilizer in agriculture, and the burning of organic matter. Glaciers melting, lesser summer stream flows, genus extension, and the rise of ranges of disease vectors. Various new diseases have merged. The global warming extended the distribution of mosquitoes through the increase of humidity levels and their frequent growth in the warmer atmosphere affect the marine life. The Kyoto Protocol that aimed at stabilizing greenhouse gas concentration to prevent a dangerous atmospheric interference. As of November 2009, 187 states has signed and ratified the protocols.
Conclusion. Every person, regardless of his or her race, nation, or creed, belongs to the same world. In the fight against climate change, one cannot afford to simply care about one's backyard. The carbon dioxide emitted in one country may have severe effects on the climate of another.